I have a roommate, let's call him Alex, who moved in about 6 months ago. I never considered Alex might be trans. Not that it would matter to me. He's a short guy, probably under 5'5", with a lot of facial hair and muscles, and he looks a lot like a short Henry Cavill. No one I know has ever brought up this idea before, even though my friends and family have visited our apartment. My mom is extremely against any gay people, and if she sensed anything was up, she would have caused problems right away. Alex and I get along. We're polite but not really friends. He's quiet but super polite, always pays rent on time, helps with chores, and even shares his cooking with me. I appreciate having him around, especially because my last 3 roommates were each their own horror story. The issue came up when my girlfriend, let's call her Sarah, came over one day. Alex was shirtless, and I forgot to tell Alex she was coming over. She noticed the scars on his chest and was quiet and short with me the entire time. When she got home, she blew up my phone, asking why I had a female living with me. I was confused and asked what she was on about. She said she knew the scars were from top surgery and that he is short, so he has to be trans and a born female. I tried to explain that even if Alex is trans or a born female, there's no way I'd be attracted to him because anyone who looked at him would see a guy. Plus, he's respectful and doesn't cause drama like my last roommates, which she knows about. Honestly, I still have no idea if Alex is even trans. I Googled it, and those scars could be from some other surgery, like heart surgery or gynecomastia. I don't have an argument for him being short, but there are a lot of short men. At first, Sarah wanted me to ask Alex if he was trans, which I refused to do, or give her his last name so she could run a background check. I said no to both. Then she said this was a violation of trust, and that if I didn't find out if Alex is trans and kick him out, or just kick him out, she would have to reevaluate things, basically threatening to break up. I said I don't do ultimatums, and we're done. Since then, she's been messaging me every day for over 2 weeks, even after I blocked her on everything because she wouldn't leave me alone. She's pissed that I wouldn't do this small thing for her. She ranges from asking if I'm fucking him, to wanting to just talk, to asking why I can't at least give her closure by asking him. Recently, she told our mutual friend about the situation, but our friend wants no part in this mess. I didn't feel bad at first, but after talking about it online, some people said I should have just asked my roommate if he was indeed trans to keep the peace, or that I shouldn't have picked my roommate of 6 months over my girlfriend of 5 years. I'm wondering if I'm being unreasonable. I legitimately do not see how any straight dude could find Alex attractive, personally, but maybe I should have done something just to keep the peace. Now for some comments from others. One commenter said, NTA, you don't owe that trans-unfriendly person anything. You're right. It doesn't matter if he's trans or if it's from some other medical surgery. She is not owed any knowledge about his life, genitals, or medical history just because she doesn't think he deserves to exist or thinks he's delusional, or whatever other nonsense transphobes are spouting. You did the right thing, blocking and dumping her. To this, I responded, I asked her at one point if one of her friends or roommates asked if she had a female genitalia, would she be uncomfortable? And she pulled the "don't turn this around on me," and then pulled up a Google screenshot of common tactics used in gaslighting. Misdirection. The aggressor changes the subject or redirects the conversation to confuse the victim. Minimization. The aggressor downplays the victim's feelings, making them feel like their concerns are insignificant or like they're being overly sensitive, which is insane to me. Another commenter added, why the hell would you be a jerk for leaving someone who both A, is a virulent transphobe, and B, thinks if you're ever in the presence of any other human with a female genitalia, you're inevitably going to frick that person. Even if we remove the transphobia, she's neurotic about assuming you're a cheater. That alone is grounds for dumping for your own sanity. I replied, I do feel right in what I did for the most part, but there is some doubt in me. I admittedly feel ashamed of the doubt, but I still feel it. She was the first girl I ever dated, and I was with her for so long. Meanwhile, I've only been with my roommate for half a year. It does really mess with you to lose someone you've been with for so long. One commenter asked for more information. Did you start dating your GF when you were 17 and she was 22? And aside from that slightly disturbing fact, you've been together 5 years and appear to not be moving forward, living together, etc. Where exactly was this relationship going? I answered, I really don't like talking about it, but yeah, you're right. I was 17 when we got together because that's what the age of consent in my state was. We were talking before that, but no relationship stuff happened until I turned 17. She was around 22 years old. Another commenter asked, would you be interested in a 17-year-old right now? Even outside of this whole situation, it may be nice to explore other relationships as your ex seems problematic in a variety of ways, including but not limited to the bigotry, lack of trust, and weaponization of terms like gaslighting that are shown in this post. I replied, no, I wouldn't. I really don't like thinking of her like that because she was a big part of my life. But thinking back, I don't think I could be interested in a 17-year-old. I don't even think I could date an 18-year-old. I get it's all legal, but it just feels weird. An 18-year-old is still probably in high school with parents, and I'm in college and have bills to pay. A commenter pointed out, your girlfriend is clearly a bigot. Think about whether that's the kind of partner you want. I responded, I was on the fence for a bit if this was a transphobia issue, but I did talk to a Redditor in private, and after rereading some texts and thinking it over, I do think that she was being trans unfriendly. If Alex is trans, then calling him a girl is a weenie move. If Alex isn't trans and just had some surgery for his heart or cancer or something, then it's still a weenie move. I feel bad because I didn't know it was transphobia. I really didn't. I am completely new to this stuff. Another commenter said, just because you spent a long time making a mistake, that doesn't mean you have to hold on to it. I replied, this is really the comment that hit me. Whenever we had problems, I kept saying, well, I've been with her this long, or I've known her this long. It really feels like a punch in the gut. I've been a fool. Finally, a commenter noted, frankly, in a roommate situation, paying the rent on time and picking up after themselves means more than any kind of intimacy orientation. All right, here's the script. That's what I'm saying. He is the perfect roommate in my opinion. He is chill, doesn't bring drama, cleans up after himself, doesn't play loud music or videos at 2 a.m., and he even shares stuff he cooks with me. Considering out of my last roommates, 2 of them got arrested, this is a godsend. Now for a few comments. Commenter, is this the first time your ex-girlfriend has become inappropriately obsessed with someone else's life that is none of her business? Has she ever expressed any sort of prejudice towards people of other demographics? She always had a boundary that I couldn't be friends with women or men who were attracted to men. I think she has it in her head that if Alex is a trans dude, then that means he is suddenly a she, which makes no sense to me. Has she ever showed prejudice? I'm not too sure. She refuses to discuss any political or social topics like that to anyone, even her own mom. She prides herself in being anti-political and doesn't watch news or anything involving that. If a YouTuber she likes brings up politics, she would block and never watch that YouTuber again. I do think it is bordering on extreme because if the YouTuber is gay, trans, or mentions anything about social stuff, she treats that as being political. There is a movie commentary YouTuber called Mr. Gag. Once I was showing her a video on him reviewing a movie about La Llorona, and Mr. Gag talked about being Hispanic and how he likes seeing Hispanic representation in movies, comparing it to seeing your favorite football team. And she said, shut that off, because it was too political to her. I think she views everything as political, even stuff I don't really think is political. Another commenter, OP, how did you not see this side to her? I get that you are very young, but this is a woman who got with a minor as soon as it was legal. What would you other people say if the genders were swapped and verbally and physically abused you? Because that's what she did. I'm glad this happened so you could finally get rid of her. I bet in a few years you will be shocked you took so much abuse before leaving. This isn't me justifying it, I'm just explaining my side here. Any part of me that thought it was weird when I was younger got dismissed by everyone else around me. My mom got with a guy twice her age when she was 16, had me, guy got arrested for something else, and raised me on her own. She started joking about me and my ex being a cute couple and getting married since we were kids. Even when I was 12 and 13, she made jokes about sneaking me into her prom. My ex's mom also encouraged it, because her and my mom are best friends. I thought this was normal. I thought her losing her temper and raising hands was normal. I thought her insulting me wasn't her, but the anger talking. If you have everyone around you telling something is okay, even if it isn't, it really does mess with you. She is also literally the only woman I've been with, and I haven't even been friends with a woman for a long time, because that made her uncomfortable. I get I was dumb, but try to see my side here. Now let's answer some questions. Did you break up with her? Yes, during the text conversation, we broke up. I always told her I had one rule, that I don't do ultimatums. If she were to say, choose X or me, that I would leave. I put up with a lot of verbal and physical abuse, but I don't put up with that kind of nonsense. Ages? I was 17 and she was 22, 23 when we got together. It's been a long time, so I'd have to look back to make sure. But yeah, I was for sure 17. We got together the day I turned 17. Our anniversary is my birthday. We couldn't get together before then because of the age of consent in my state, which I get now is really messed up. I don't know if it helps, but we have known each other our entire lives. My mom is her mom's best friend. When my mom worked, I would go over to Sarah's mom's house, so I wasn't alone. We started talking and flirting when I was about 15 or 16, but didn't cross any physical lines until I turned 17 because I didn't want her to get arrested. I get that sounds bad, I really do, but at the time I didn't see it as bad. Just in case it is asked, our moms encouraged it. Why would you want to be with someone like that? I really don't. I didn't realize it was transphobia until some people here talked to me about it. I thought it was just her being jealous. But I get how messed up it is now. Please understand, I live in the Bible Belt. I didn't even know trans people existed until I was 16. My personal thoughts are that I don't see a problem with people being trans and transitioning. I think at the end of the day, it isn't my business. Is Alex trans? I have no clue. He could be, but he could have also had breast cancer, gyno, heart, lung, or any kind of other surgery. I used a photo from Google/Reddit because this whole time I personally thought he had gyno or something. But it's not my business. Is Alex safe? I'll talk to him when I get home and then talk to my landlord. I will change my gate code and also have her removed from the allowed guest list and also ask my landlord to not let her in personally. She hasn't been too violent of a person in the past, but I also didn't know she was this insane in the past either. Was there abuse? I feel like this has been kind of implied in some questions. I don't know. Has she insulted me? Yes. Has she been physical? Yes, but nothing crazy. Slapping, pushing, shoving, but never anything like punching or drawing blood. Why use CM if you're American? I was born and raised American. However, I got a couple of friends who use metric from college, and after sharing a group chat with them for so long, the habit has stuck. If anyone cares, we're in automotive engineering. The photo? The photo is not actually Alex. I searched Google for gyno surgery photos and then found a Reddit post talking about it. I used it as a reference for what I mean. Scarring under the chest and around the body part area. I definitely wouldn't actually post a photo of Alex here, censored or not. I'm sorry for confusion. Why didn't you ask Alex about his scars? I have a few reasons. I personally wouldn't like it if someone asked me. Second, my mom has scars all around her body for different reasons and gets livid if you ask her about them. Third, probably the one that confuses people the most. I didn't really care enough to ask. I was curious, but I just thought, and then went on with my business. Now, another comment. Commenter. Do you think that a man slapping, pushing, shoving, but not punching or drawing blood from his girlfriend is okay? Would you consider doing this to your girlfriend or any future partner in the future? If you heard your female friend doing this to her boyfriend or your male friend doing this to his girlfriend, would you be fine with it? It's less that I don't think women can be abusers, and more like I felt this was a normal way for someone to convey being upset, or what I am slowly realizing, I do think I deserved it. If any of my friends, male or female, told me their partner was hitting them, I would tell them to leave and not put up with it. I think there is some part of me that believes that I did deserve it, and I recognize that isn't healthy. So I am going to get help. Let's start with the post. Commenter: the moms encouraged a 17-year-old to date a 22-year-old? What is happening? Am I misunderstanding? My mom is one of those people who only thinks it's a problem if it's an adult with someone under the age of 13 sexually. My biological father got my mom pregnant with me when she was 15 or 16. He was more than double her age. I don't know if that experience warped her perception of reality or what. She has been through a lot, and I recognize that, but it's frustrating. Not to rant, but she is the textbook definition of continuing the cycle. Now for the small update. I talked to Alex. I got advice saying to be upfront and tell him what's up completely, hide the trans part, and that I just shouldn't tell him. I don't know if this was the right thing, but I just told him, because once I was face to face with him, I couldn't really help but do it. To clarify, I did not ask him about his scars or mention that specifically. I said my ex-girlfriend was under the impression he was a trans person, made sure to say I didn't care if he was or wasn't, and that I broke things off, changed the gate codes, put her on the let-in list, all that drama. Before even saying anything, he asked if I was okay. Like I said, he is a chill dude. He also not so subtly asked the same questions that a lot of comments asked. Essentially, if I was in a hurtful situation. I told him I don't know, but whatever kind of situation it was, it's over. The thing that really kind of messed with me is that he called me his best friend. I regret not saying we were close in other comments. I realize now we have different definitions of close because he is introverted and I'm not. We talked about irrelevant stuff for a while, and then the question came up, would you care if I was trans? To summarize things, yes, Alex is trans mask. He had top surgery when he was 19 and has been on hormones since he was 18. He even has a tattoo with the date he started testosterone. While the idea that he could have been a dude with gyno, cancer, or something else is completely reasonable, it just happens that Alex is trans. And I don't care about that. Alex is Alex. Alex is going to help me out with finding some low-cost or pay-scale therapy because he personally hasn't heard good things about the college's therapy services. Like everyone else has said, yes, it was abuse. I see that. I will also hold higher standards for myself in the future. Alex sent me the information for the therapist he sees, and I'll contact them in the morning. The landlord knows there is a domestic incident, and I trust him when it comes to making sure my ex doesn't show up. The do not allow list was made with this in mind. I am not ready to talk to my mom about this, but I hope with some therapy and time, I will be. She knows something is going on, but she believes this is a break and not a breakup. Sorry if this sounds like rambling. It is. This has been a rough couple of weeks. My brain is fried and I'm tired. Keep in mind, I'm still a full-time student during this. I also have to keep my grades up for my grants, scholarships, government aid, etc. I do read all comments, even the not-so-good ones. I will try to respond more before I sleep tonight, but just know even if I don't reply, I have read it. I appreciate all the advice, kicks in the rear, and the sympathy. A side note, I have seen a lot of trans people comment on this post, and I have had a few reach out to me in private. I am thankful for your comments as well. It has brought to my attention how tough things are out there, because I honestly felt what I did was the bare minimum and not worthy of praise because it should just be expected. But I see that it is being praised for how low of a bar there is when it comes to human decency towards you. And I'm sorry for that and hope things get better. Now for some comments. Comment not the idiot, you have a good roommate. Trans or not, they are impossible to find. Your GF was the one with issues. Get a restraining order? This morning I did respond to one of her messages with essentially and further communication will be used as evidence for a restraining order. The good thing she is on probation, and one of the rules is that if she commits any crimes while on probation, it'll probably be revoked. So if she messes up once, then she won't be my problem for a couple of years. On probation, she is on probation for DWI. One of the rules of her probation is that she can't violate the law. If she does, then that's a violation, and they may revoke her probation. On why he posted here. OP, I originally asked this question on FB and was given a completely different answer. Basically, keeping the peace, happy wife, happy life, see it from her point of view, etc. Why are you so familiar with gynecomastia? I Googled chest scars surgery male once, and the first thing that came up was a website talking about, do men have to worry about gynecomastia scars? This whole time, I assumed Alex had that. Bro, it legitimately sounds like you'd been railroaded into that one relationship for your entire life. The fact that you're going to be able to establish any standards is going to be a big step up. Therapy is definitely going to be important for that, and it's good you're seeking it out already. For real. The minute my pregnant mom found out I would be a boy, she immediately joked to Sarah's mom that this was perfect because then I could date Sarah, and then our moms could be actual sisters or something. Couples Halloween costumes. My mom coming up with plans to sneak me into Sarah's prom. It's a good thing Sarah can't have kids, because my mom wouldn't stop about grandkid ideas until that was found out. Now for the update. I talked to the therapist Alex recommended. Normally, I would be on the wait list until January, but due to the situation, the therapist referred me to one of his associates, and I'll be seen as early as next week. I also was recommended to attend a domestic violence support group that gathers once a month. I was originally not going to go because the idea was uncomfortable as heck, but Alex said he'll go with me, so at least I'll know someone there, and we can leave if it's too weird for me. My mom is aware of the breakup. She is not too happy. I did not mention the trans part. I said that Sarah was being controlling and I didn't want to put up with it anymore. Got the usual, that's a normal part of any relationship comments, but I stood my ground. My mom seems to be under the same delusion as Sarah that this is a small argument or something and we will get back together. But that is absolutely not happening. I don't really talk to Sarah's mom, so I don't know her thoughts on the matter. The landlord is aware of the situation and will not let Sarah in should she try to show up. If you don't have the gate code, you have to go to the main office, and the employee, landlord's son, will buzz the person in if they are on your accepted people list or call the tenant and ask if they aren't on the list. If the individual is on the do not let in list, especially if it involves a criminal matter, they will be asked to leave. If they don't leave, then it becomes trespassing. I know this sounds like a lot, but the security is why a lot of people live here. I am sorry for trivializing my abuse. It still feels weird to say abuse, but I do know that it is abuse. Slapping, pushing, and shoving is physical abuse, and if another person came up and told me their partner was doing that, I would call it abuse. It's not that I don't think women can be hurtful, but as I said in one of the comments, I don't view it as abuse when it's towards me. This is probably due to being abused by my mom, which I am going to get help for. For reference, when I mention my mom's abuse, it's why I'm low contact with her. The reason why I was extremely underweight as a kid is because she just straight up didn't feed me a lot of the time. CPS got called a lot, but never did anything. They also didn't take any claims by my teachers that I was being abused as credible because there were no marks or bruises, which has warped my view on abuse. Going forward, if I date again, then I won't put up with any physical or verbal abuse. A couple of comments helped by saying that if I was confused on if it was wrong, to think about if it was another person going through it, which has been helpful in what I feel is right and wrong treatment towards me. After a lot of talking, it turns out Alex and I have been friends this whole time, but because I've never had an introvert friend before, I didn't exactly realize. Alex says he didn't want to annoy me by trying to chat with me all the time, which ironically is what I was feeling. Now we're going to hang out more, and he is trying to get me to join the D&D game he is in. Thank you for reading my giant block of text. I'm on the app, and I don't exactly know how to format. I'm grateful for all the comments, regardless if they are good or bad. I do read all of them. Now, for a comment from the original poster. When telling Mom about the abuse, they said, "I agree with your comment. The unfortunate thing is that my mom is aware of her physical verbal abuse and didn't really do anything about it. She would make excuses for Sarah, such as how Sarah just needs help, she's stressed, and that it isn't abuse because Sarah didn't leave marks or bruises directly. My mom is not happy about the breakup and is in the denial stage right now, but the roommate issue hasn't been brought up. If it is brought up, I am going to say Alex had heart surgery, which is the excuse Alex uses. Am I the idiot for telling my overbearing mother to back off our wedding cake plans? My fiancé and I get married this fall, and the cake has been a huge point of contention with my mom. Long saga, but the gist is that we wanted a dessert bar or cheesecake instead of a traditional cake. My mom initially insisted on having at least a small cake for just us to cut. We compromised and got quotes. Right before we put a deposit down, she decided that having just a cake for us and not for guests is tacky, so we needed to get a sheet cake to serve as well. We were annoyed because she was the one to suggest it, so we cut our losses and opted to do tiered cheesecake and mini cheesecakes as we originally wanted. My mom would not let this go for the past 6 months. She then decided to focus on pushing for a groom's cake. My fiancé did not want one. When I told her this, she said it's really only a groom's cake in name and not about what he wants. I told her a firm no multiple times because she wouldn't give up. That brings us to this week. I got a text yesterday saying she was at the bakery and paid for the order. I got suspicious because I never included her in those communications. I called the bakery today and was told by a very apologetic employee that my mom had added a multi-tiered groom's cake with different fillings, flowers, the whole kit and caboodle. We still have cheesecake, but I feel like it'll look silly next to what is essentially a wedding cake. My question now is, what do I do? She doesn't know that I know. I'm furious and hurt. Obviously, it's just a cake, but it's not really about that now. She went behind my back and crossed multiple boundaries after I told her no. Am I being a bridezilla for not letting her have her traditional wedding cake? Now for a few comments. One commenter said, "Why should she have a cake at your wedding? If you don't want cake, just change the order back and call it a day. And add a password for all your vendors moving forward so changes can't be made without it." I responded. Everyone I've spoken to has either been in the camp of, well, they're paying for the wedding, or not her wedding, not her cake. I think that's why I'm torn, because yes, they are paying. But changing the order behind my back? I'm more upset about the violation of trust than the actual cake, I think. Another commenter added, "It is not just a cake. It is a breach of your boundaries and your wishes. Cancel her order. Put a password on all your wedding accounts. You are not marrying her. You are marrying your partner." I replied, "Exactly. It's the breach of trust that's been the most upsetting. I need to call back tomorrow and see if it's possible to cancel and get a refund, since she paid in full." I suspect she did that intentionally, thinking she was being so clever. A different commenter suggested, "Ask the bakery to convert the cake into additional cheesecake and mini cheesecakes. Maybe a smaller groom's cake that looks nothing like a wedding cake. Do not tell her you did this. When you go to the bakery, have a password put on the order so it cannot be changed after you make the appropriate changes. She thinks she got something over on you. If she does check on it, the password will stop her from making any other changes. If she shows up at the venue with yet another cake, instruct the people at the venue to put it in the back and not bring it out." I responded, "Thanks for the advice. Having the cake changed to more cheesecakes is a good idea. Never in a million years did I think I'd have to become like one of the Redditors and password protect my wedding, but here we are. Now for the 3-month update. Hello again. A big thank you to everyone who gave advice on my original post. I'm now married and had the best, most relaxing honeymoon with my now husband without any pesky family bothering us. By the time I posted, it was too late to cancel the wedding due to deposits and contracts, so it continued as planned. And to clarify, yes, my parents did pay for the wedding, although my husband and I made it clear several times that we did not expect or need them to pay for everything. No, I don't think them paying excuses my mom's actions. My parents reiterated that it was our wedding and we should do what we wanted. Clearly, the cake was the exception to this. though she had previously said to get cheesecake if that's what we wanted. My husband and I got a laugh out of everyone's suggestions for how to handle the cake. Initially, I wanted to go the petty route and surprise my mom by calling the bakery to change the cake design to something she would find tacky that would reflect my husband's hobbies. Yeah, no, like a groom's cake should do. After taking a few days to weigh my options, I knew my desire for petty satisfaction would nuke my relationship with my mom, which had truthfully never had this dynamic up until wedding planning. I knew that she absolutely was the one in the wrong and acting like a child. And while I'm the actual child in the relationship, I wanted to be mature and handle this like an adult, if only for my own moral high ground. I communicated with my parents and listed all the reasons why this situation and others throughout the wedding planning process was hurtful and completely out of line. Shock of the century to everyone on Reddit, I'm sure. It didn't go well. There was a series of texts I received from my mom that demonstrated she couldn't take accountability or comprehend that I wasn't mad that she ruined my wedding by ordering a cake, but rather that she went behind my back, knowing it would surprise and upset me on my wedding day. I attempted multiple times to redirect to the actual issue with little success. We ended the conversation with her apologizing for a cake, making my husband and me so upset. This obviously wasn't a genuine apology or the main issue, even if she thought it was. She also agreed to move the groom's cake to a meal we had the day before the wedding, which I was fine with. At this point, we were a week out from the wedding, and the thought of continuing to press the issue was too much for me to handle with everything else on my plate. I dropped the rope leading up to the wedding so I could refocus on enjoying my wedding as best as I could. I interacted with my mom as little as possible the day of, and our wedding party and coordinator did a fantastic job being a buffer. While I've had some contact with her since, it has dramatically declined so I can get some much-needed space. Obviously, we'll need to have some tough conversations, but I'm choosing to spend my time with my new husband and getting back into therapy first. Weddings, man. They really bring out the crazy in people. Oh, and the cheesecakes were a huge hit, Batawo. Now for a few more comments. One commenter said, "I'm glad you had the day you wanted and enjoyed your honeymoon. Unfortunately, although previously this wasn't the dynamic you had with your mother, the fact she refused to see her error and wasn't apologetic. If I were you, I would bear that in mind for the future, i.e. other major events, children, etc., and plan accordingly." I replied, "Oh, absolutely. The lack of respecting boundaries / breaking trust for future life events was actually something I pointed out in our conversation. She didn't seem to understand the point I was making, just kept going back to the cake and not the deeper issue." Now for the 1-year update. I'm back with a 1-year update on how my mom changed my wedding cake order without me knowing. People have reached out for an update, and coincidentally, I've had several friends get engaged who have similar family dynamics as mine. I've shared all of this with them, but I feel the need to blast this out online too. I can acknowledge that I love my husband and our life together, but having a traditional wedding was a big mistake. When I think back on our wedding day, I am devastated to admit that the few emotions I remember from that day were not how much I love my now husband and excitement over our future together, but anxiety over my mom and whether things were about to blow up. If you're recently engaged and have difficult family relationships or aren't completely sold on shelling out a ton of money on a wedding, please let this be yet another loud voice yelling at you. Elope. Have a courthouse wedding. Don't invite problematic guests. Do whatever you want to do, but for the love of God, avoid that family drama at all costs. I wish I would have stuck to what I originally wanted, eloping somewhere abroad. But alas, I made my decision and have to accept it. What I didn't mention in my initial posts was that my relationship with my mom immediately and irrevocably changed as soon as I became engaged. Even though I knew she could be a lot, I had no idea what I was in for. If I could do it all again, I would have stopped that wedding planning train in its tracks after the first few signs of craziness. The cake was, unsurprisingly, just the last straw of craziness that happened. Greatest hits include telling literally and I mean literally, everyone she knew that we were getting engaged less than 10 minutes after my husband told my parents he planned to propose. Upon sharing the proposal photos with her, commenting on how big I looked in the photos, which are to this day ruined for me. Told a family member who commented on how beautiful I looked at a pre-wedding event. Yeah, well, she's gained a lot of weight. Tried to crash my first look the day of my wedding and acted hurt that she wasn't invited. Did crash my first look and threw a fit when my wedding coordinator wouldn't let her in. Made the wedding all about how she never had a say in anything and that I was the controlling, immature one. We do still have contact today, but it's limited, and I am very guarded with what I choose to share. She never genuinely apologized or acknowledged the stress and hurt she caused. Short of some major changes on her part, I don't see that happening. So yeah, the moral of the story is to absolutely soak up the fresh excitement of getting engaged. But seriously, ask yourself if there's anyone in your life who will make wedding planning hell on earth. If you're oh so fortunate to have a character like that, have a plan to handle it and be prepared to enforce those boundaries. And for the extra crazy families out there, maybe just elope. Now for some additional thoughts from the original poster. I see how the wording was misleading, and I should have linked the 2 previous posts. The point of this was more so to serve as a cautionary tale to any engaged couples out there who are dealing with a situation like this. Learn from my mistakes. What starts as little complaints drama can quickly snowball and permanently change relationships if you don't nip it in the bud. On how to handle family issues in wedding planning, the original poster added, "Fair enough. I've seen so many couples recently who are having issues with family very early on in wedding planning, so I wanted to share how 1 year later, my family relationships are horrible because of one day, and it personally wasn't worth it for me. Yes, I regret not handling it earlier on and picking up on those red flags. Hindsight is 20/20, and life can be more complicated than what's on paper. Am I the idiot for telling my mother-in-law to keep her political propaganda out of my baby's nursery? My husband and I are expecting our first child. He is an only child, and his mother is over the moon excited. She lives about a mile away, and since we both work, she has made a nursery at her house for the baby to stay. More on that later. Her and I have an okay relationship, not antagonistic, but we are wildly different. I was raised by a Gen X, cool mom where we talked about everything, and I was raised to be independent. We have our fights, but it's healthy, open communication. When I make a decision or set a boundary as an adult, that's respected without question in my family. My mother-in-law is a more typical, traditional mom, very doting on her son, who was a perfect angel. In reality, he was just good at not getting caught and telling his mom what she wanted to hear. I give the context because the mismatch between how I'm used to communicating and how her and her son communicate is part of the problem. Now the story. My mother-in-law is a Trump supporter. My husband and I are very much not. We live in a conservative southern state, and I'm no stranger to Republicans. Some of my closest family members are Republicans, but none of them are Trump believers like my mother-in-law. Even if they were, they respect me too much to talk about it because they know where I stand. I usually try and do the same for my mother-in-law and steer conversations away from politics when I can. It is hurtful to me that she is voting against my rights. My state outright bans baby on a living. Every time I go to the doctor, I'm afraid something is wrong with the baby, and as a result, I will die. I'm trying not to let her political beliefs affect how I see her, but it's hard. That's when she sends me pictures of the nursery. She's done an elephant theme. Hanging on the wall is a painting with the Republican Stars and Stripes elephant. I had heard about this from my husband beforehand, but didn't realize how prominent it was. She told him, I had to. I'm a Republican. When I first heard, I immediately freaked out. I think it's inappropriate to put anything political in a nursery. I know there will be some hard conversations down the road when it comes to what conversations I don't want had with my kid, what I don't want on TV, etc. Republican signage over the crib feels like a bad omen. My husband's attitude is to pick his battles. He has no problem fighting with his mom if she crosses a line, but doesn't see the picture as a big deal. Me, I feel that if a small thing is a point of contention, what's going to happen when it's a major boundary that needs to be set? He was fine with me handling the situation how I saw fit. I sent this message. The room looks great, but I can't say I like the Republican elephant hanging up there. I get y'all are, but I'm very much the opposite and don't really want that around my kid. Do you think we can take that down? It'd make me feel more comfortable. I got zero response. This isn't the first time where I've sent a message setting a boundary and gotten radio silence. Or we'd have a conversation over the phone, and I'd think everything was resolved until my husband talked to her and she's still upset. To give my husband credit, he's not defending her in any way or taking her side over mine. He's just used to ignoring her, and I'm used to hashing things out. He's out of town, but when he gets back, he plans on visiting in person and setting things straight. First, I need to know though, am I overreacting by being this bothered? Does the situation actually warrant fighting with my mother-in-law? I do not want to set a precedent of me being uncomfortable with something and saying nothing where my child is concerned. Minor update. Just a couple of points I clarified in comments I want up top. My mother-in-law has made a baby room at her house. We have our own nursery at our house that I'm decorating how I want. We were gifted 2 cribs, and they have an empty bedroom, so I had no issue, but there was no discussion prior. I never asked my mother-in-law to babysit. She assumed she would babysit when I returned to work, which is okay. She's retired and lives close by. I have no problem, before all this, with her being a part of my baby's life. We are not in a spot where her providing childcare is make or break. I work from home and have a flexible schedule. It'd be inconvenient, but mother-in-law babysitting a few mornings a week is more for her than us. I don't hate my mother-in-law. I don't think she's a bad person. She raised a son who is a wonderful husband and will be a great dad. She didn't force beliefs when raising him. It's a situation a lot of us are facing with our parents. 8 years of Fox News and the cult of Trump changing people we love into someone else. I am trying to see the best in my mother-in-law and not hurt her in this situation. But nobody's feelings come before what I think is best for my child. Today I spoke with my husband about my concerns. He agreed that his mother needs to talk with me when I have concerns and follow any rules I set forth. He called her, but didn't think it'd be a fight because he believes in his mom. It did not go well. He is out of town, but when he gets home tomorrow, he is going over there to have it out. In his words, I'm handling it. Now for a few comments. When asked about her mother-in-law providing childcare and installing some political-related stuff in the nursery, she said, I think the idea is that she will be taking care of the baby after I return to work. I work from home, but it would still be for a few hours a day, so I don't mind her setting up the room. They are also retired with no other kids/grandkids, so this baby is the most exciting thing happening in her life. It's a lot, though. We had issues with her asking invasive questions when I was trying to get pregnant. There was also an argument over the baby shower. I wanted a small gathering at home. She wanted a big event and was upset I said no. And what you said about what else will she teach your baby is spot on and my real concern. About the nursery at her Mael's house, she mentioned, this is the nursery at her house. It's not about the elephant at the end of the day. It's how willing are you to follow the boundaries I set around my kid. If the baby isn't even here yet and you're not willing to budge on something small, that doesn't make me feel confident my parenting choices will be respected in your house. In that case, I get to decide that the baby won't be staying at grandmother's house as much as she thinks. That's really the nuclear option, and I'm not trying to go there. Hence why I'm so worked up, because I'm not trying to cut anyone out without trying to make things better first. Responding to multiple questions about using her mother-in-law as free childcare, she explained, I think something that's being missed is I never actually asked my mother-in-law to watch the baby. I never asked her to make a baby room. It's all stuff she kind of just assumed. Now, if I say, actually, we don't need childcare, she will be crushed. This is my first kid, and I'm the only one of my friends to have kids, so I'm missing what a normal level of involvement is for a grandparent. I really expected when I asked her to take the picture down, she just would. My husband reassured me that she would not step out of line because she knows he will chew her out and she won't see the baby. Now, I don't think that. At the very least, she sees him as the authority on the child and not me. I actually don't. I don't attack her for her views. She said some discriminatory, ignorant things in my presence, and I still go over with a smile on my face and try and maintain a relationship. That's different when my kid is in the picture. I'm not asking her to change her beliefs at all. They don't need to be present when my kid is around. If they can demand teachers not disclose their sexuality, religion, or politics, why can't I expect the same? Now for the next day's update. I just heard my husband's side. He spoke with his mom for 30 minutes on the phone, and it was a disaster. For anyone saying this was a way of her testing boundaries, you were right. It started with mother-in-law acknowledging she read my text but didn't respond because she didn't think it was a big deal. He said, well, it is a big deal for my wife, and this needs to be resolved. She then goes into how we could use this as a teaching moment for how to be accepting. He reminded his mom she knows what our politics are, and she knew exactly what she was doing, putting that up. The conversation then devolved into name-calling. At one point, she called him a fascist and said he needed to grow some balls if the picture bothered him instead of making it an issue when his wife said it was an issue. Very typical. Your wife is the bad guy trying to keep her away from grandbaby. As you can guess, this didn't go over well. He made it clear that her issue is not with me. Now that mother-in-law disrespected his wife, he's got a problem with her. I, wife, have given mother-in-law a lot of slack and not jumped down her throat for the offensive things she's said. It's mother-in-law that is putting politics over family. It was never about the elephant. He wasn't worried at first about her respecting our rules, but with how she's acting, he knows it's a problem. Conversation cut off there, but he is going over there in person tomorrow to start it right back up. He made it clear to mother-in-law this is not her child, and she does not have decision-making power. I'll update tomorrow if there's any big developments, but as of right now, I feel validated that something was indeed off. And I'm grateful that my husband and I are on the same page and supporting each other.